wife, when she goes out, she's sometimes talking with work colleagues, and they ask her the question. And they say, "What does your husband do for a living?" And she said, "He teaches people how to breathe." And of course, this is usually met with some laughter at my expense. Because in terms of health priorities, and in terms of what we can do to empower ourselves, breathing doesn't come at top of the list. In actual fact, usually breathing doesn't even come on the list. But what if I was to say to you that through your breath, you can influence the 100,000 miles of blood vessels throughout your body? You can influence the amount of oxygen that's delivered through your cells. You can open up and decongest the nose. You can open up the lower airways. You can achieve a state of calmness in a state of anxiety. How you breathe as a child determines how you look for the rest of your life. And I'm really curious to see, have you ever considered how you breathe? A show of hands, how many of you here have taken a deep breath to help with stress? So it's quite a few of you. And I'd like you to demonstrate this deep breath for me. How would you normally take this deep breath? So in order to take this one step further, how do we actually breathe when we're stressed? And I need your engagement here because I don't have all the answers. But when you're stressed, does your breathing get faster or does it get slower? Do you breathe using your upper chest or your diaphragm when you're stressed? Does your breathing get more noisier or does it get quieter when you're stressed? Do you breathe through your nose or through your mouth when you're stressed? Often through the mouth. Do you breathe more or do you breathe less when you're stressed? More. Take that deep breath again from me. So what you've just done is you've taken a faster breath, a noisier breath, a larger breath. It's often through the mouth. And you're expecting that to calm you down. And I know it is taught by many yoga studios, many Pilates, many physiotherapists, many stress counselors, many psychologists. And as one guy said to me a few years ago, he said, "Patrick," he says, "they couldn't have all got it wrong." And I says, "I think they have. They've all got it wrong." Because to bring the body from a state of stress into relaxation, it doesn't make sense to amplify how you are already breathing. Instead of breathing faster, we need to breathe slowly. Instead of breathing using the upper chest, we need to breathe using the diaphragm. Instead of breathing through the mouth, we need to breathe using the nose. Instead of breathing more, we need to breathe less. And the nose is the first step, because the nose is not just the two holes in your face. Back in the 1970s, a very famous ear, nose and throat consultant, Dr. Morris Cottle, he said that the human nose is responsible for 30 functions in the human body. This is not just filtration. This is not just warming the air. But there's a gas released into the nasal cavity called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide sterilizes the incoming air. Nitric oxide opens up the airways. And nitric oxide enhances the amount of oxygen that's taken up in the blood. When Hollywood is doing a film of an idiot, how do they usually portray the idiot? As a mouth breather or as a nose breather? It's usually as a mouth breather. The mouth is hanging open. That's no coincidence. I was a mouth breather for many years. I know too well the effects of it in terms of concentration, focus, sleep. That's all influenced by how you breathe. And as babies, we were born breathing through the nose. It's an innate natural function of the human being to breathe through the nose. But we know from studies that 50% of our children are breathing through the mouth, and probably the same goes for adults. All animals, can you imagine the tens of thousands of species on animals on Earth and their innate nasal breathers? Okay, the dog is an exception. But only the dog on a hot day will have its mouth open. At all other times, the dog actually breathes through its nose. So there's tens of thousands of species on Earth breathing through their noses, except the human being. And this face here is characteristic of what you would consider a good-looking face. It's got a broad facial feature, straight nose, well-developed jaws. The jaws are forward in the face, high cheekbones, alert eyes. This illustration, I took this from an Irish international footballer. I sent a photograph of him over to my illustrator, and I said, copy him, but I said, don't make it too obvious. This guy has got good airways. His jaws are well forward in the face. When you were watching Connacht, you'll see plenty of good facial profiles, because you're not going to get onto that squad if you're going around with your mouth open as a child, because mouth breathing changes the whole shape of the face. And I'm not just talking about crooked teeth. This is a typical expression of mouth breathing, and I have some of these expressions because I had my own mouth open. My nose is slightly bent because my jaws aren't forward enough. My top jaw was very narrow. That's why I'm wearing braces at the age of 42. You could say it's 30 years too late. My lower jaw is set back. When we have the mouth open, the whole face sinks downwards, because the ideal expression is with the mouth closed, that the tongue is resting on the roof of the mouth, the tongue is wide, and the tongue is U-shaped, and as we're growing up as a kid, the pressures exerted by the tongue influence the width of the face. All mouth breathers develop crooked teeth. And you could wait until the child is 12 and have the teeth straightened. But I'm going to tell you this. Straight teeth do not create a good-looking face. But a good-looking face creates straight teeth. And I was a mouth breather because I had asthma. And we have 500,000 people in Ireland with asthma, 5 million people in the UK, 20 million in the USA. When we have asthma, we feel that we're not getting enough air into our lungs. And as I grew up, I remember wheezing and fighting for breath. And no matter how hard I breathed, I still felt I wasn't getting enough air. And I never realized it at the time that my breathing was feeding back into my condition. But I developed a habit of mouth breathing, over-breathing, and breathing too much. And because I breathe too much during the day, I breathe too much during my sleep. And I was not just a snorer, no. I could be heard 2 rooms down, 2 rooms away. And as a 20-year-old, your romance life isn't too promising if you have that carry-on going on. But not only that, snoring and disrupted sleep because of my mouth breathing during the day, I was exhausted in school. We have hundreds of thousands of people with incorrect breathing, habits that we've developed, is ruining quality of life, and nobody is telling us, breathe through the nose and breathe less. In 1997, I read an article in an Irish newspaper. It was about the work of a Russian doctor. He said 2 things. He said, breathe through your nose, and he said, breathe less. I started practicing his exercise. My asthma improved by about 60 to 70% in 1 week. That was after having asthma for 20 years. That was going to consultants, in and out of hospital, going to medical doctors every 3 months. My sleep improved. I started waking up alert. It's not just the quantity of sleep that is important. The quality is absolutely vital. If you're going around with your mouth open during the day, if you're sleeping with your mouth open during your sleep, you're not waking up alert. And I made some bold claims at the start of this. I said that we can influence your blood vessels through your breath. I said that we can enhance the amount of oxygen delivered to the cells through your breath. And I said it wasn't about taking a deep breath, it was about doing the opposite. So as a group of people, I really need you to help me here. I want you to practice it. And I want to see as a group, can we influence your body temperature in just a few minutes through your breathing? Because if you know your body temperature is changing, you know your blood circulation is changing. And of course, your blood carries oxygen, and oxygen is king. So I'd like you to put one hand on your chest, and I'd like you to put one hand on your navel. And I need you to tune into your breathing. I need you to take attention out of the mind onto your breaths. I need you to feel the slightly colder air coming into your nose, and I need you to feel the slightly warmer air leaving your nose. I need you to feel the slightly colder air coming into your nose, and I need you to feel the slightly warm air leaving your nose. And what I'd like you to do is to start slowing down your breath, almost to the point that you're not breathing. That you're slowing down the speed of air as it enters and leaves your nostrils. That you're quietening your breath. That you're deliberately reducing the amount of air that you're taking into your lungs. That your breathing now is less than it was before you started. And I need you to feel slightly breathless. I want you to feel the same way as if you're going for a walk, because unless you feel breathless, it's not going to work. Now, I'll know by your eyes if you're doing it or not. So I would really love your cooperation with this. As a group of people, can we change your body temperature? Slow down your breath. Lao Tzu is a famous Chinese philosopher. He said that the perfect person breathes as if they do not breathe. Can you breathe as if you do not breathe? That we cannot see any movement. We cannot hear any breathing. That your breathing is so soft that the fine hairs within the nostrils do not move. Your breathing is so quiet. Your breathing is so calm. Your breathing is so light. And I'd like you to take a rest there for a moment. And the next exercise I'm going to have you do is a very simple exercise. But if any of the females are pregnant, I just ask you just not to do it. But other than that, I'd like you to take a small breath in through your nose, a small breath out through your nose, and pinch your nose. Now this is a real photo opportunity. Now start nodding your head up and down, and hold your breath until you feel a medium to strong air hunger. And I need you to continue holding your breath. Continue holding your breath and continue nodding your head up and down. Continue holding your breath, continue nodding your head up and down. When you feel a strong need for air, let go and breathe through your nose. And now go back to doing the reduced breathing again for a couple of minutes. And I know it's taking a few minutes, but I want to leave you with something. Can you influence your blood circulation through your breathing? So again, with one hand on your chest, one hand just above your navel, I need you to tune into the breath and take attention out of the mind onto your breath. And if you find that your mind wanders a lot, you'll get so much out of this, because focusing on the breath and quietening your breathing is an excellent way of anchoring the mind. The whole purpose of meditation is to breathe lightly. We bypass it. We just go directly to the breath and start slowing down your breathing. I want you to breathe so softly, almost as if the fine hairs within the nostrils do not move, that you have no breathing movements. I really need you to diminish the amount of air that you're taking into your lungs. I really need you to feel as if you're going for a walk, that you feel breathless, that you're quietening your breath, you're calming your breath. What happens to your body when you deliberately breathe less and slow down your breathing? What happens to your body temperature? What happens to the nose? What happens to the amount of saliva in your mouth? And we'll continue that for 2 minutes. But to really make this an experiment, I need you to have that air shortage for the next couple of minutes. You're slowing down the breath. You're quietening the breath. You're breathing so lightly through your nose. So soft. So slow. So quiet. So still. If your mind wanders off, bring your attention back onto the breath. Soften the breath. Quieten the breath. You could exert gentle pressure with your hands against your chest and tummy to create a slight resistance. But above all, I need you to feel slightly breathless. It shouldn't be stressful, but I need you to feel that tolerable need for air. Okay, take a rest at that. Thanks very much. A couple of questions, and I would love to get your feedback. Is there any change in your body temperature, colder, warmer, or the same? Warmer. Is there any change in the amount of saliva in the mouth? Less, more, or the same? More saliva. Your noses, some of you with nasal congestion may find now that you're breathing a little bit easier. You can block one nostril and breathe through it, and block the other nostril and breathe through it. When you get stressed, how does your mouth go? Dry. It's activating the sympathetic, or what's called a sympathetic nervous state, a stress response. By deliberately slowing down your breathing, you help to counteract stress. We will all face stress in our lives. Stress makes people sick. Stress changes breathing. Breathing increases, and blood vessels constrict. That's why we can't think straight when we're stressed. And then we take the deep breaths. And what would happen if you kept on taking that deep breath? How does your head feel? Dizzy, lightheaded. You sleep with your mouth open all night and you wake up exhausted. The key here is that with breathing, less is more. Because those people with asthma, those people who want to wake up with more energy, those people who need more focus, those of you who want your children to grow up with beautiful faces. And for sports, oxygen is king. We get more oxygen to the cells. And through the breath, we can simulate high altitude training to bring athletes 3 miles high through their breathing. The breathing is all powerful, and how it has been taught for decades has been very misleading. Doctors have said to their patients for years, they've said to eat less food. The next health revolution is to breathe less.